identifying where are the market niches are and what are the strategies to get you in front of those markets. And we also try and understand what opportunities we've missed. So we work together as a team and get you in front of those unidentified markets, and work very hard to create some positioning for those companies that optimizes their success. The background to that work is many years working with small businesses across multiple sectors, and just more recently, the last 5-10 years, developing accelerator programs for small businesses and accelerator ecosystems. So that's a little bit about me. On a personal note, I'm a mom. I've got a bunch of kids and some puppies that create a huge amount of chaos in my life, but I love them dearly. And like everybody else, we try and make it all work. I find myself days just flying by. This is work I love to do, so I'm super excited to be here with you all. And I'd just like to pass the baton for a moment over to Rob. And Rob, would you please go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Rob Arndt. I am the CEO and founder of a company called BufferSprings. We are a training consulting firm that helps smart organizations build effective military recruitment, engagement, and retention programs. As you can see on the bullet lists on here, I am not classically educated, as you would say. I do not have a college degree. I didn't attend any prestigious universities, nor do I have an MBA or anything like that. I served in the Marines. I learned how to be a good follower, a good team member, and eventually a good leader. At least I tend to hope so. I took those hard and soft skills and applied them in my day-to-day as I climbed the ladder as an employee, learning the valuable skills needed in the world of business while also using my expertise in the field that I chose that would one day become BufferSprings and my passion project and what I'm doing here as a company. So you don't need to have a crazy laundry list of things to get started or this immense background in business education. Passion and planning go a long way. And for those of you who are joining the call, hopefully a great idea hits you like a lightning bolt. You can't let it go. You become obsessed with that concept. And today we're going to help you go through a 5-step process of validating that and hopefully going to market and taking that idea into invoice, so to speak.
Thanks very much. So why don't we go ahead and get started, Rob? We have I think a really interesting discussion today, and I would just say that the way to think about what you're about to hear is as a framework for thinking about your business. I really think one of the biggest challenges with small business founders and owners is that we're so busy running our businesses, we don't get the opportunity to think about it from arm's length. So if you're just getting started, there's some really helpful pathways here for thinking about how to structure your company and where to start, what to do next. And if you're an established business, take this time and just reflect on what you're hearing in terms of how you can take a step back and put your CEO hat on for the future growth of your company. And Rob, I'll hand it over to you and start with the definition of the problem.
Absolutely. So first off, we're going to jump into the actual problem. All right. What I'll start by saying is that one reason that veterans and military spouses make great entrepreneurs is that problem solving is in our blood. This is a fact. This is not an opinion. As vets, we make up about 5% of the US population, yet we account for almost 10% of all small businesses. So this is something that is in our DNA already. Today, hopefully we're activating that in a few of you, if not all of you. But when we see a problem as military members and military spouses included in this, our minds immediately look for a way to go over it or around it. Or for the Marines on the call today, we look for a way to go through that problem. But in this, you identified a problem, you identified a gap in the marketplace, and you know how to solve it and fill that void in the world. You know in your heart that this could be an amazing opportunity, but your potential clients see the need. But will your potential clients see the need to invest in your solution? So once you've identified that problem or that need that needs to be solved, you have to distill that laundry list. A lot of times these problems don't come to us in a succinct, formatted, step-by-step answer of how we're going to solve this problem, but we know that this problem does exist in there. So What we recommend doing is distilling that laundry list and potential features and mechanisms into one succinct sentence. So this is kind of your 30-second elevator pitch, so to speak. And this is when you know that you've condensed that problem. Where I told you earlier, BufferSprings helps smart companies build effective military recruitment, engagement, and retention programs. It took the longest time to get that down to one simple sentence with all the things that go on in our space. But as you're identifying your problem out there, you also have to decide what the need is for this problem, whether your solution is a vitamin or it's an actual painkiller, which are obviously totally different effects out there. So while we're looking at the problem, we understand that this is your idea. Your idea is your baby. And sometimes it's hard to call your own baby ugly, but let's face it, most babies start off pretty ugly. And as the parent of that baby, you can see the potential even where others can't. So here's the solution to that issue. When you've found that problem, do not focus on your idea, because again, you are biased, you are blinded by the beauty of that idea, but focus on the problem that your idea solves. Is that problem worth solving in the first place? And these are hard questions that you'll have to ask yourself coming out of the gate. What is the priority of this problem in the consumer's eyes or in your eyes? If it goes unsolved, and it's always gone unsolved, is that okay? Or is this something that needs an immediate need with the timing and everything else going on in the marketplace? But how does your solution change the lives of people that have this problem? Does it save them time? Does it save them money? Does it save them headache and frustration? Is this a luxury item, or is this something that's been missing for the world for too long and you're the one who's going to be bringing it to market? So you have to ask yourself, once you identify this problem, why are you doing this and what is that problem that you're solving? But again, focus on that problem, not the idea. On here on the screen, I have a simple Eisenhower matrix, and this is an easy way to break down that issue, where in the upper left-hand quadrant, you have important and urgent. Is this an important problem to solve? Is it urgent? Is this in the height of COVID and there weren't enough masks or there weren't enough PPE solutions? Were you one of the ones providing that and stepping up when the timing was right? Or is it important, not urgent? You want to be in that upper left-hand quadrant, but if your solution falls in any of these other quadrants, that's fine too. There are luxury products out there. They sold millions of the pet rock. So there are opportunities out there for things that aren't necessarily a need to have, but a nice to have, but you have to be objective in identifying that right out of the gates. So now that we've talked about the problem, now we're going to talk about the founder. All right. There are a lot of different things in the world that I am interested in, but there are very few that I would consider myself an expert in those fields. Veteran hiring is one that is near and dear to me, and I've been doing this work for 22 years. So this is why I'm the right person for this. But this is identifying why you are the one to solve this and asking yourself those hard questions. How are you uniquely positioned to take this product or this solution to market? What do you know that your competitors don't know out there? Have you been there? Have you done that? Can you showcase that expertise and that experience out there and be able to speak to that? And it's easily identifiable as to not only why you're the founder, but why you're the person who's going to take this idea and turn it into something beautiful. A common theme that I see amongst a lot of founders and circles that I travel in with other veteran entrepreneurs and even veterans and business owners in general is imposter syndrome. Almost every entrepreneur that I've talked with has had imposter syndrome at one point, or it's a constantly going thing. And I'll admit I have imposter syndrome on some days and even starting off the business, but this is something that's a common theme. But understand your strengths, understand what you bring to the table, and think of that from a position of power. Every entrepreneur over the course of time, I'm sure even Elon Musk has imposter syndrome in some of these cases, but you'd be impressed at what the mind can do, once driven to the proper lengths. So as a founder, this is a simple concept coming from the Japanese called the Ikigai module, which I kind of brought into play for this. But as a founder, are you a solo founder? Are you a solo entrepreneur, or are you one of many, or are you part of a team and you have a co-founder? If you're building a tech product, are you the sales and the business acumen of that side of the relationship, or are you the tech co-founder who's actually building out this and developing and making these systems or making these widgets behind the scenes? But what's the match between the founder and the business idea? In my case, I've been doing this work for basically my entire adult life, and I truly care about our military connected community. So this is passion as well as my expertise coming together. but what is yours and where is your match into this business idea? I know Chris Irving's on the call with his company School Twist. He's a parent himself, saw different frustrations going on in the marketplace and dealing with things as a parent, and created a technology solution to combat those issues that a lot of parents see. And he's a great match for that because he is a father himself. But what are your innate advantages that distinguish you or your co-founders from the competitors and the other things that are out there? As far as going back to the idea, there are very few ideas that have not been had yet or that are 100% original, but that shouldn't stop you from moving forward. When you know that you're the good product, that you have a good solution, and that you are the founder who's going to bring it to market, some things that are on that checklist is pretty much 4 simple steps. The first one is going to be obsession. Like, you're obsessed with this concept. You can't stop thinking about it. You lay at night awake thinking about it. Like, this is something that has consumed you, and that you know that you're the one to bring it in there. That obsession is a very healthy thing and will drive the passion of the business. You also have to look at your founder story of who you are, where you came from, what brought you to this moment. People love stories and buy into things. There are companies that we purchase from or that we're a part of that we are only a part of those because of the impact they have on the world or the positive impact they have in our communities. But what is your story? And people want to hear that story and really humanize the business. Anybody can sell widgets, but when you have a backstory behind it and something that's passionate, that's palatable for people. Also, your personality. You're going to have to sell this. Are you a technology developer or an engineer somewhere, and you're used to being closed-doored? You may have to break out of your comfort zone and work your personality to actually talk with individuals and engage with your potential customers out there. If not, do you have a co-founder who has that personality, or how do you fit into that market? The 4th thing on there is your industry experience and your expertise. Why you are the go-to for this. Why are you that subject matter expert? You have that obsession, that story behind you, the personality to take it on, and you have that expertise. If you have those 4 check marks, almost nothing can stop you except for you. What I would recommend doing is working on your 30-second elevator pitch, and pretend that you are in an elevator with somebody, and you have 30 seconds. You're going up 4 floors to talk about who you are, what you do, and why they should care about what you do, and continue that conversation. Practice this yourself. Practice this in the mirror. You can point fingers and say, it's not you, it's me, kind of deal, but make sure that you're working on this, and this should come out fluidly for you. And then know your network. You need to know the problem. You need to be able to speak to it, but you have to have a network built around that. So once you have all of those things, that's where you start to align with an actual business concept and know that you're the right person to bring this to market. And looking at this Ikigai module, putting these 4 things together, something you love doing, something that you're good at, something that the world needs, and something that you can be paid for what the world needs. Once you have those things in there and you have that synergy, like you're seeing in this Venn diagram, those are the things that you need to have to move forward. And if you don't have those pieces of it, you can always build those. If you're not the right person for this, you can bring on a co-founder. If you're not passionate about the project, though, that's something you can't build on your own. So some things to think about there. Next, we're moving on to the purchaser, one of the most important parts of the equation. If you are not making sales, if you do not have customers, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. All right, so you identified your problem. Now this is, who are you solving this problem for? How are your potential customers solving this problem today? Are they using an antiquated solution? Are they doing it on stone and chisel and they're back in the dark ages? But how are these customers solving that problem now? And then asking yourself the question, will people buy this? Don't just take your, and you have to do the market research, and that's a slide that we'll cover a few slides ahead, but that's the biggest question is, will people actually buy this? What I'll say to the members on this call is, do not take your military experience for granted. This is something that we tend to do as veterans, but understand that we normally see things through different lenses than our civilian counterparts. So you have to look at your purchasers. Are they military, and are they going to understand this and you're selling back to DoD? Or is this something that's a civilian consumed product that you may need to talk to people about or see things differently? So use your experience, but don't take that for granted. We have a lot of great things that apply to business. As I shared in that stat earlier, we have great leadership training and experience. We have poise under chaos. We're used to managing people's lives, people's safety, millions of dollars of equipment. Like, these are all things that are great great attributes for running your business, but you have to identify the purchaser of where those fit in there. So persuade these people to see your vision, but in order to do that, you have to see theirs as well. So here's some different ways that we can break down that actual purchaser persona. So first and foremost, you need to find people who are ready, willing, and able to pay. So first thing to define on here is your market category. Is this B2B? Is this B2C? Is this B2E? For those of you who don't know the breakdown of those acronyms, B2B is business to business. Your business is selling directly to another business. B2C is business to consumer. You are selling a product to a consumer. Think of like a Facebook or something like that, where you're going direct to an individual consumer. If you're going business to enterprise, these are large Fortune 100 companies and huge battleships of organizations. Understand that they have longer sales cycles and processes to get through procurement and different things that you need to cut through on there. So these are all factors that you need to consider when you're looking at your potential customers. Then we get into the buyer persona. This is sometimes called your ideal customer profile, or your ICP, or your customer avatar, and some different ranging terms of that. But at the end of the day, you have to break down a pinpoint target of who your ideal client is. What is their age? What is their gender? Where are they located at? What is their occupation, their education backgrounds, their actual needs, their interests? Looking at that ICP, or that ideal customer profile, is one of the most important things, because as we know, as veterans, and all the time that we spent qualifying on the rifle range, we're never going to hit black if we're just spraying and praying at different targets and hoping that we do it. We have to be laser focused on that dead center target of who we're going after, or else we're wasting time, we're wasting energy, we're wasting money, and that could be a detriment to a business. And part of the reason why some businesses never actually get off the ground is they don't know who they need to sell to. This can change over time. You can have your initial customers out there and know that you need to expand, but don't try to boil the ocean. Try to niche down of who your ideal customer calling is. Then you have to look at your acquisition channels. How do these people buy right now? Is it via, or how are you going to sell this? Is it e-commerce, or is this only offered online? Is it in the app exchange on the Apple Store or within Google Play? Are you going direct to consumer? Are you pounding the phone and calling your prospective clients and setting up meetings and going to events? Are you working and leveraging with strategic partners? Are there people within the ecosystem that could be a good strategic partner to you, to bring you referrals, to get you in front of those channels and kind of borrow some credibility? And we'll get deeper into that here in a second. But then also looking at resellers. Can somebody else sell this for you? Can you have an extension of your sales force while you're just one person? So looking at your market category, the buyer persona, and those acquisition channels are going to be one of the most important parts out of the gate. Because again, if you don't have clients, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. Now we're going to talk about the approachable market, and I want to get a little deeper into the weeds on this. So when we're looking at your approachable market that's out there, there are different market conditions that you need to be aware of. So there are demographics, there's segmentation, there's all these complex things about looking at your market. And it's the reason there's so many complex things is because it's ever changing. Your model changes it, your business, your product offering changes it. But the things that you have to look at is not total market size, where I'm in HR consulting and almost every company has a human resources department, but I can't simply boil the ocean. I have to go directly to my approachable market of hot clients that I know are looking to bring on military talent and doing it for the right reasons. So don't look at the total size and be kind of nose blind to that and saying, oh my God, this is one giant oyster that needs to be open. You have to look at what you can actually approach and what you can conquer as a solo entrepreneur, or coming out of the gate swinging at your current state. You have to look at the growth rate of that market. Is that market going down? Are you opening up a blockbuster video now when there's no need or no demand for that market? But look if that market's going up, and then look at fluctuating things like look at Bitcoin, things where markets are just crazy and ever changing, but try to find trends in those markets. Do people buy at certain times? Do people, is it a seasonal business? Look at these different things that happen, because you have to focus on 365 days of the year, but there may only be 60 or 90 that are your prime selling times. Also look at your market profitability of who plays in this space. Are they a large company? They continue to grow? Are they profitable? Are they going belly under? Look at your competition and research who's out there, both direct and indirect competitors. Some key success factors that you want to consider is like technology and the progress of technology. If you have an iPhone 4 in your pocket, that used to be the bee's knees, and now that is an antiquated paperweight. So look at the technology process and progress and see if you can actually keep up with those while you're developing things in-house. Will somebody else get to market faster? Also look at economies of scale. Look at the efficient utilization of your resources. Our resources are everything as emerging entrepreneurs, but we may not have all the beans, bullets, and band-aids that we need or will soon need as our business continues to grow. But those are key success factors to optimize early on. And again, look at your distribution channels. Look at your industry cost structure of how do people buy this? What are they used to buying? Is this subscription models? Is this a yearly billing? Is this a retainer fee? But look at the cost structure that's on there and make sure that you're planning your target market, the market need, looking at your competition, both direct and indirect, and also looking at different barriers to entry. If you're trying to become a government contractor and sell back to Uncle Sam, it's better to have your service-disabled veteran-owned small business set-asides and your different accolades that you can bring to the table there to actually compete in that market. Or are there different regulations? Do you need specific licenses to do this job? If you're opening a food truck, do you need food licenses and to be sanctioned in different states? Or if I go across the state from Massachusetts to New Hampshire, does that change my business? But look at barriers to entry and potential threats that are out there, and look at regulation as well. You have to look at the actual law, or else that's going to come back and bite you in the ass later on. Number 4, we're going to jump into the pricing model. All right. There are a lot of different pricing models, and pricing is more of an art than an actual science. I wish I could tell you all what your pricing structure could be today on this call, but there are so many different variations of this and different nuances within your business that dictate these. But overall, there are 7 main types of pricing channels. The first one and the simplest pricing strategy is going to be cost plus. This is your cost of actually building that product, your cost, if you're a consultant like myself, your hourly cost that it takes you to do this work, or your cost of goods, what it takes to build that widget or to make that robot that you're selling at the end of the day. But looking at your actual costs, the other factor that you need to consider is that one of the costs that's in there, one of your biggest ones, is that you're going to have to pay taxes. So always want to factor in 25 to 30% to be safe of what you have to pay back in taxes and load that into your costs. Once you have those costs locked down, then you add on whatever your profit margin is and make sure that you're looking at the market conditions to see that you are actually comparable to other people who are playing in the space, or at least the value is there. But cost plus is the simplest strategy. It can also backfire if you're not right, because you may be underpricing or overpricing your product based off of what your costs are as a startup, when somebody like Apple can do this for a lot cheaper by outsourcing things and the monster that they've built internally. So cost plus is the first one. Second one is going to be penetration pricing or disruptive pricing. This is your opportunity to gain the attention and grab the attention of the market with low prices. Is this right for your business? It's not right for mine. I don't want to come in here and be cheaper than the next person who plays in my space, because I'm not playing the same game as them. So penetration pricing would never work for a business like mine, but it does work for a lot of businesses that, hey, instead of paying $150 for cable, I can pay $9 a month for Netflix and have access to more programs at my leisure. There's a great opportunity there where penetration pricing has worked and they built a machine out of it. The third one is value-based pricing. The value of your product or service exceeds the operating costs of that consumer. For me, the average cost per hire to put a human being into a seat is $4,700. So I have to make sure that the value of what I'm providing is much better. The value of that candidate, it's a better match for the job. They're getting a work opportunity tax credit. So even though their cost per hire is $4,700, they may get a $9,600 tax credit for hiring the right veteran from the right space. So now with these people have higher retention, I can talk about my value. So value-based pricing only works once you've narrowed down the numbers and you know what your value is to that consumer, not to you, but to your consumer. The fourth is economy pricing. So economy pricing, think Walmart, Think Dollar Tree, think Aldi. You're going there because you know that it's going to be more cost effective, or a Spirit Airlines where you're not going to get a meal served to you. You may be sitting on a park bench, but you can bring your own snacks if you want to, but you're saving a ton of money up front. So economy pricing is an option out there, but it's not right for everybody. Then you have the opposite, which is going to be premium pricing. You offer your offering or your product or service far exceeds your industry counterparts, and you can charge a premium. Think of Apple, where they have a superior product to some of these other off brands and HTC and Motorola and all these other companies that they eclipsed out. Or think of Mercedes-Benz, that you're doing that as a prestige or as a status symbol, and you're paying that premium for that. Number 6, you have dynamic pricing that fluctuates based on market conditions. Think of Uber with surge pricing. When traffic is high, I know that I'm going to get charged more for the ride than I would have got charged at noon on a Sunday. So make sure, dynamic pricing can work, but as a solo entrepreneur, that's something that you need to keep a hold on, as a living beast that you need to keep your mitts into. And then the last one is price skimming. You set a high marked up price for a new offering, and then you gradually reduce it to keep consumers interested. Hey, this big product is now 10% off. Now it's 10% off again. This is something that a lot of retailers do. So those are your 7 main pricing models. Really do your research on these and find out which one's going to be the best for you, or an adaptive one that covers in a few others. And Chris, I don't know if there's something you wanted to add to this slide here.
Oh, I just wanted to point out that really it's so common for business owners, especially when they're first starting out, they get their first customer, second customer. They're really underpricing, undervaluing what the service should be, what should be priced at. So it's tempting to do that, and you're just getting started. So you're getting your first customer, and you may not have done just a very simple market check against your competition. Maybe you think it's a good idea to underprice your competition, but you really want to think carefully, because when you price something low, it's difficult to go up. But if you price something too high, you can always go down. So just pointing that out. Don't be afraid to really price your service or product for what it's really worth.
And being in sales for so long, I agree with that wholeheartedly, that once you discount something or you go under, you will never be able to get back to full price with that customer again. They're almost like offended when you ask them to pay for list price on something after the fact. And I've learned that the hard way. So good wisdom on here. Some pricing factors to consider. So there's 4 tips when you're choosing a pricing strategy. And first and foremost, know your value. If not anything else, know your value in that in the perception of the eyes of that consumer. Not just you. I'm sure you know your own value and you like yourself, and that's awesome. But that doesn't matter. You're not the one buying this product from you. So we're going to talk about a few different factors on here. So price versus value is the first thing that I do want to cover, because there may be confusion on that. Price is what we pay for something. This is cold, hard cash, baby. This is what we pay with. And this is our monetary way of exchanging things. Value, on the other hand, is a lot harder to measure. It's based on how useful something is to someone, or how much it means to them, not necessarily to you, but how it is perceived by that consumer on the other side. So what you have to do when you're looking at this. So talking about pricing, first of all, the price is what you are charging for the product or service that you're selling. Your cost is what it costs you to actually produce that. Sometimes there's a price and people will go to market and say, okay, competitors are charging $9.95 for this, but your costs are a lot more than what your competitors are on there. We're always trying to drive down costs. Even if you leave pricing up, or you continue to boost pricing, you want to keep driving your costs down wherever you can and optimize those. Then the perceived value that's out there. You determine your objectives. Is this a one-time charge? Is that a value to your customer? Is it repeat customers? Is it subscriptions? But where does the value come in, and how easy is it for your consumer to consume? What does your market research tell you? And that's something we're going to cover here, but or that we covered a few slides ago. But what did your market research tell you? Who is buying? What is the market conditions? What is the seasonality of that? Get to know that, of where your value is. Your value could fluctuate throughout the year. when affirmative action programs come out and there's a OFCCP regulation from the Department of Labor where they have to submit their a form called the Vets 4212. It's right around September timeframe, and then Veterans Day comes on. So this is a hot season now where people actually have veterans at the forefront of their mind. So this is a great market time for me as an individual entrepreneur. But get to know your customers, quantify your price over the value and see what they feel about that and get that feedback from there. Look at your competitors, both indirect and direct competitors, but know how much this problem is worth and how much people are willing to pay to solve it. Other costs that you need to consider, not just the costs and physical costs of building a good or, the time behind it or the components or things that go into that of your raw goods or raw materials, but you also have to think of the money that you invested into your business and getting this up and running. You have to think of the energy that it takes to do this and build these things internally and how much strain that is on you. And then think of your time savings or the money or the time given back of determining your value, and think of how that looks to your consumer as well. Are you giving them time and energy and money back? So, and then after you boil this down, look at your average revenue per customer to see if you have a sustainable business model on here. And Chris, do you want to add anything onto this one? I know that this is something that we talked about pretty in depth before, of these three things that are usually foreign to each other, but trying to get them on the same page here.
Well, just depending on the product or service that you're selling, or if it's a technology, it's really important to understand what the competition is doing on their pricing side, and to understand what that niche is, what that specific service niche is that you have that's going to be different. Because just having one feature, one quality of your product or service that's different from the existing competition is something that you can pay attention to and you can charge for. So there's a lot to say about that. That's all around product development, packaging, and positioning. But yeah, carefully look at what your competition is doing.
Absolutely. Thank you. And the final step on here is going to be validation. In this, even though it's the final step, after you've done your homework, this is where all the rubber hits the road. After you've looked at the problem, you've looked at the market, you've identified yourself as the right person to bring this in there. Now's the time to actually validate that, to realize this is where you realize whether you have a hobby or a business. So you've done your homework, you're ready to start selling. Who's going to buy this? Write down your goals, write down your assumptions, any hypotheses you have of what's going to happen. And it's great to document and almost diary that stuff out of the gates, because you're going to prove yourself wrong. You're going to hear things. There's no way that you just figured this out in a vacuum somewhere in your living room. When you're talking to clients and you're actually out there engaging and talking with potential customers, that's when all these things start to change. But it's important to document those things up front so you know where you're starting, what needs to change, and how the original vision is shifting. So write down the goals of your business. The first step is like looking at and validating that market, and we'll show you some good ways to do that here. But search the volume of your related terms that are out there is a good way to do that. Try doing a Google search on your problem. I did this 10 years ago where I started validating, came up with this great idea on paper of a business that I wanted to start, and then realized, took a step back and told myself that I wasn't reinventing the wheel. So then I went in and got industry experience in this space and have been doing it for the last 10 years. Now, 10 years later, I was ready to start my business. So do your validation, look at related terms, look at who else is playing in this space. Make sure you're conducting consumer validation interviews, get feedback, reach out to potential customers on there, and make sure you're testing your product or service. Talk to people that you know may be opposed to it. Like, you want to have pushback. Don't just tell your wife or your significant other, your husband or your dog about this, and people that love you, they're not going to necessarily tell you the good, bad, and ugly of this, but get out there in front of the people that can potentially be opposition.
Rob, let me just jump in on that one for a second.
Yeah.
I want to back that up. I think what Rob's saying is really important and also proven. If you look at some of the top accelerator programs in this country, and accelerator programs, for those of you who haven't participated in one yet, are basically short, intensive experiences that range from 4 weeks to 3 months, where you are mentored and you learn about entrepreneurship, and they focus on your product and help you grow. They're basically hundreds of these programs across the country. One of the best ones, I think, really backs up your point, is called I-Core. And what I-Core does is they require that all of their participants complete, I think it's something like between 35 to 50 customer discovery calls. And so people come in with their ideas, they're ready to go, and I-Core says, hold on, let's talk about your customer. And you have to actually complete customer discovery conversations and research before you can graduate to the next step in the I-Core program. So we really can't emphasize enough how important it is to refine your product and your value proposition by having these conversations with your potential customers.
Absolutely. And this is the tipping point. This is where the rubber actually hits the road. And I love that they do that because it's so important. But for some founders, it's the hardest thing to do. Now, I have a background in sales, so I've been talking to people and engaging with people that don't want to talk to me for my entire life. I was a Marine recruiter for 7.5 years in New England. So I got hung up on, called baby killer and all these other things that are out there, but you got to keep calling. You have to keep validating that need that's out there. But it's all about reach. And, a friend of mine, Mike Stedman, says this best, is that business is a contact sport. The two personas that you should be engaging with, not your buddies, not your friends, not, people that are going to, your mom or people around the dinner table, but you need to be talking to potential customers. And once you lock down that ICP that we talked about, that customer avatar, reach out to those individuals and see how they feel about this. Just see if they'd be open to a coffee chat or exploring a new product, or just saying, hey, I am an emerging entrepreneur, or fellow veterans. Vets are never going to tell each other to pound sand, or military spouses and other people in our military connected community. Use that to your advantage and reach out to potential customers that are veterans. Hey, brother, hey, sister, have a new product and bring it to market. See that you're using a competitor or something similar. Would love to chat with you, find out what you love and hate about it, and see if the new solution that I'm offering may be a good alternative for you. You'd be surprised of how many people that you can get on the call, but research that audience and know who you're talking to. Make sure that when you're talking to them, you're able to offer and articulate that value that we talked about. Grow your online presence. This takes some time. I tried to come out of the gates and just post all this stuff on LinkedIn and everything else, and I was getting the likes of that, but people weren't liking it with their wallets. They were only liking it with a little imaginary thumb on there, and that's not validation. But use social media, build a presence, but realize that you're not going to sell to everybody who's engaging with you. The more engagement you're driving, the bigger your audience, the bigger your reach is. But make sure that you're out there, that you're not being blinded by that false validation that's there. Likes and loves and everything else don't keep the lights on. Some other suggestions that you can do here is go to events. Look at where your potential customers absorb their information, or where they get their content from, or their certifications and licensing, and where they absorb that information, and go to those events. If you have the opportunity to do so and you have the subject matter expertise to get selected, speak at these events. These have been my best source of clients, of going out there to where my potential customers absorb information, getting in front of them, showing myself as a subject matter expert, offering them value and some guidance points. And that's what's driving business more than me just doing cold outreach or sending out a ton of, 40,000 emails and hoping somebody buys from one of them. We're in a different world now, post-COVID. People want connections. People want relationships. People do business with people that they know, they like, and they trust. So you should be looking at building relationships and talking with individuals. But at very least, you should be reaching out to those potential clients, having coffee chats, offering them a free trial. If you have a technology platform that's in alpha or in beta right now and you want to test it out, who better to test it out with than who you'd want to have as a potential customer? The other thing that I'll say is, going back to the imposter syndrome conundrum that's out there, don't be afraid to admit who you are and where you are in the process. They're not expecting you to be Amazon right out of the gate, but tell them where you're going, why you're passionate about this, why they should care about the process, what value that you add, and tell them that you are here trying to solve this problem. You'd love to have their feedback and would offer them something in return for their time. But make sure when you get that feedback that you are actually absorbing that. It's not a quick individual conversation. You're looking at it and doing a SWOT analysis of your strengths, your opportunities, your weaknesses, your threats out there, and hearing what your consumers have to say, because that's the only voice that really matters at the end of the day, is your actual buyer. And once you get that feedback, take calculated action on that. You don't have to change everything and get into months of development to change one little feature for one person. But if you start noticing trends, this is when you may need to change things in your business. But I would also encourage you to talk to people who may think that your idea sucks. That's going to be some of the best feedback that you get, of not just the, the people who are the cheerleaders and behind this process, but think of people who have done it before, and talk to your haters. Haters have some good information too, and then just take it with a grain of salt. But that's when you're engaging with your potential customers. Your referral partners are going to be huge as well. Coming out, I've been doing this work for a long time. I have a good network and good expertise in this, but my business is not a household name. Nobody knows who BufferSprings is yet. So what I've done is attach to other industry partners. I'm working with Broadbean. I'm working with the National Industry Liaisons group that works with federal contractors who have to hire veterans. Those are audiences that I'm getting in front of and actually borrowing credibility from those bigger partners and understand and using them to help validate as well. So these are the two people that you should be talking to: potential customers and referral partners that are there. And Chris, I don't know if you want to add anything on to this. I know that you have quite a depth of experience in the actual sales cycle of this, and have seen multiple entrepreneurs go through this struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're just getting started, it really depends on what stage you are. But if you're just getting started, it's all about that first customer. And we undertake a process that's called friendly fire. It just means that you reach out to someone in your network who can provide very objective feedback on your product or service, but that comes to you framed, in the best spirit. So in other words, it's like mentoring. So when you don't have a customer, it's always hard to get your first one, but we do recommend that friendly approach. When you are at the point where you have an established business and an existing set of customers, you might find that your business is declining. Then what you need to do is you have to look for new ways to expand your revenue. And that means either diversifying your product range or your service range, or just completely turning your model upside down and doing something completely different. Because the market changes, especially with growth-based businesses. So we're happy to talk about that. In fact, I wanted to mention, Rob, that this is one of a 3-part series. And today we're talking about your great idea, but the next program that we have, we're going to be talking about some more fundamental things like establishing your business, getting your EIN number, how to set up your corporation, like how to structure your corporation with what kind of a legal structure. And we'll be bringing in a couple of folks next time to talk about that. And to this particular slide, the 3rd part of the series focuses purely on sales. And so if this is something that maybe you don't feel is your particular strength, it will be very helpful for you to join us for that one as well. And then before I hand it back, Rob, I just posted in a link. It's a long link, but it's a link for those of you that are on the call. There's a number of resources. One that Rob and I are very actively referring is this link to Verizon, which has a platform called the Small Business Digital Ready platform. We'll show you a few slides in a minute here, but I wanted to go ahead and share this. When you click on that, you'll be taken to a screen and they just want you to register and then confirm your email. But once you get onto the platform, you'll see a whole range of free courses, and they're useful for whether you're just getting started or whether you're really further along in your business and you just need to continue to refine your technology. It could be your website, it could be digital marketing. All of these things are available on that website. So I'll just I'll stop there for a moment, Rob, and we'll go back to the slide.
Yeah, thank you. Really solid points. So to recap what we've talked about today, you identified that problem. You know where you fit as the founder and why you're the one to come out here and solve this problem. We identified your purchaser and who's actually going to buy this and what that ideal customer profile or that buyer persona looks like at the end of the day. We have the pricing model, at least the initial one. This will change over time. It may fluctuate. My pricing model has changed 4 different times. I have different offerings that are out there. I have packages. I have retainer fees and different things that are in there, but it wasn't easy to figure that out. But I had to validate that by talking to actual clients in step 5 on there, which is one of the most important steps, is getting the foundation laid there, but then going out there and validating that with clients. So a few other things that I want to cover on here. I know that we're coming up, we have about 10 minutes left. So as Chris was talking about the Verizon Small Business Digital Ready platform, this is a platform that I've been leveraging quite heavily, especially in these initial stages in the first 12 months of my business. But and Chris shared the link in the chat box. We highly recommend that you check this out. It's a free resource for veterans and entrepreneurs at all. Even if we have non-vets on the call, we have military spouses. This is open forum. We're just adding more content through Spring Launch to resonate specifically with our military connected audience. But within here, there's a few different courses that pick up right where we left off today. First one is finding your fit and satisfying the market with the right product. Sounds familiar, right? Effective funnels of how to turn leads into actual sales. So once you're validating, you're out there talking with potential clients and doing that step 5, a lot of those could turn into actual sales and not just feedback, but this is how you process that. And then a really good one at the end here is storytelling that we talked about, unleashing your business superpower, telling your story and articulating that and humanizing your business. But there are some great resources on here. Everything is free. You have group coaching sessions. You have one-on-one reviews. There are office hours held. There's Community Connect. There's also resources that are on there from Verizon and from partners where you can get discounted or free services. And for those on the call that are grant hunting and looking for additional funding and capital, there's going to be some money coming down the line as well. So free money is a great thing. And one
Rob, that grant deadline actually is November 14th. And so the way to access that grant is by, we're telling our clients now, if you go onto that platform and take a couple of courses, you basically unlock these incentives. But it's a $10,000 grant. And it's a very simple application to fill out. This is one of those things where like showing up is 90% of the battle. So I'd highly recommend jumping on the platform, taking a couple of courses and giving that grant a try. And there are also a number of other grant resources that we can share with you. After this call is over, we would like to keep you on our email list and get you links to a number of other grant resources, as well as other small business resources.
Absolutely. And one other great thing that's on this platform is that they have a portion on here where you can actually sign up for one-on-one mentorship. So Verizon, having the long reach that they do, have tapped into subject matter experts, tax people, accountants, entrepreneurs, and different people that you can plug in with. So you simply go in there, plug in your current challenges, your problems, and they'll connect you either one-on-one with a mentor, or you can enter into group sessions with similar like-minded entrepreneurs that are in a similar stage to really have a roundtable open discussion. So some really great resources on there. As you saw with the courses, they're not long. It's not a 3-hour or 4-hour course. I mean, it's 30 minutes. If you don't have 30 minutes to dedicate to sharpening your skills and your business acumen, then you may be on the wrong call today. So if you have your phone, I know that a lot of you are on your computer. There's a QR code on here that will take you directly to the platform. So if you want to scan that, that's up here. And today's presentation was brought to you by Launch Mechanic. And Chris, thank you so much for inviting us to the equation. And what we've created out of BufferSprings and BufferSprings and Launch Mechanic is Spring Launch. And our program is also backed and funded by our partners at Next Street and Verizon as a whole. So I know that we have about 9 minutes left. So I want to open the floor up for questions. I see a lot of things in the chat, but want to make this as interactive as possible and not just make it death by PowerPoint. So if you have questions on here, please feel free to open up. And then also next week, I'll send everybody a link after this, but we're going to be doing a session on November 9th, same time, same bat channel next week. Wednesday, 1 o'clock, we are going to be covering setting a solid foundation for your business. As Chris said, establishing your tax EIN number, getting your small business certifications and working through the SBA and the VA to do that. Also working on separating and protecting yourself and separating you from your actual business in case shit does hit the fan. And we all know that sometimes it does. So we'll be covering that course next week, and I hope all of you can join us. Bring a friend, bring a fellow entrepreneur. We're going to continue doing great things with Spring Launch, and we have a actual cohort that we're going to be standing up in the spring, probably around March, April timeframe, where we're going to be incubating 10 lucky veteran-owned small businesses to help take you to market and be here as a strategic partner and grow with you. So I'll open the floor up for questions. And Chris, if you have any parting comments as well, please feel free to drop them.
No, I'd like to hear from really anyone on the call. I've seen that I've got Sheila here who's talking about her HVAC company. We've got another gentleman who is launching a business creating merchandise and t-shirts, launched in August. And then we have a technology company on the call, and then someone else who's just getting started. So please feel free to, anybody can ask any question.
Whoever that is talking, you're on mute.
This is a really quiet group, and I'm only going to weigh in. I don't actually have a question right now because I'm pivoting things. I just want to say thanks for ended up with a kind of a small audience. I know you're recording, so hopefully others will leverage this by watching it later. But I just want to thank you, Rob and Chris, for taking the time to put this on, giving it your full effort. And for those of us that are here, I got a lot of really valuable insights out of this that I'm going to be applying as I move along. I'm just not at the point right now where I have a lot of questions because I'm just kind of pivoting the work that I've been doing. So thanks for taking the time and putting the effort into being out here and helping all of us who are in the early stages of our organization. So thank you.
Well, that's our pleasure. And I also wanted to mention to Kevin and everybody else that this initiative that Rob and I are working on, we really just started it in October. And as part of it, we would like to build essentially a stable of resources for small businesses. And what I mean by that is we're currently actively reaching out to large providers of services, people like companies like Zen Business and HubSpot and Canva and Zoom, all those companies that provide you with tools, whether it's for invoicing or whether it's for registering your company or doing digital marketing. We're very actively trying to develop partnerships with those groups so that we can then bring back not only connections, but discounts on those products. And in some cases, in my experience with HubSpot, for example, much of that software can be free because they support small businesses. So that's what we're working towards. We're just getting started. Those conversations are beginning right now. And by January, February, when we launch the accelerator, there will be those benefits along with grant benefits and mentoring opportunities from some very interesting and experienced people. We'd love to hear more about what industries you're working in. And if you could just share with us now, what was really the most valuable part of this presentation so that we can get a read on where you are with the stage of your business. That would be helpful.
So any other questions, any other save rounds or alibis as we say? All right, we have a few minutes left, so I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank everybody for joining us today, and I wish you the absolute best in your journey of opening a new business. I am just doing this myself, and I'm 12 months, well, this is the 11th month into running my business, and the reason why I'm doing this, it's not that I have this vast expertise or 30 years of running businesses or whatnot. This is all things that I've just learned along the way and hit a lot of claymore mines and stumbling blocks face on throughout this process, and just trying to narrow that down and help other people not have the same struggles that I had in validation and have the false premise of the likes and things on LinkedIn transitioning over to actual revenue, where I've hit a lot of these things face on. So my porch light is always on. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. My email address is just rob@BufferSprings, but feel free to connect with me, even if you need somebody to just share an experience with, or, hey, I got my ass kicked in marketing today. Like, we want to work with it. We want to empower our own military connected community to bring more veteran businesses in there. And even though, you know, I'm only doing this for a short time, we're doing this from a position of love that we want to lift as we climb with our people. So really appreciate you joining today. And hopefully this was a great, you know, hopefully you learned some things from today, and hopefully we can keep providing some great resources to you and fellow military connected entrepreneurs. So thank you all so much for taking the time today.
Oh, I have one more last parting comment. And that is because we have about a minute and a half. On that Verizon platform, there are about 100,000 people on the platform. So if you're interested in finding other business owners who may be in the same industry or running similar companies, I think it's a high probability that you might find a business like yours. And Rob and I would love to create some peer groups over time. So we're working towards that as well. But it's really helpful to talk to people who are in the same industry as you and also running a similar type of business as you, because you share the common business problems. So once again, I encourage you to get on that website and check that out. And I'll say goodbye for now. It was a pleasure meeting you all. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you all again. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you again, Rob and Chris. Phenomenal stuff, and I'm definitely looking forward to the additional resources that you give in the coming weeks.